Greetings everyone, Shim here bringing my first race gameplay commentary here with Forza Motorsport. My first race that I'm going to commentate is at my favorite track as well. We've got a really doozy of a race here as qualifying had mixed conditions, wet and dry, and I qualified in the wet, so my time wasn't nearly as good as what it could have been, but I qualified P10 anyway, and also failed to realize that the rain would be coming at the start of the race. So here I am trying to figure out my strategy. Fuel and lap time really isn't updating, so I have no idea how many laps of fuel I have. I think I'm good though. And I strap on the soft tires here. Now, for those of you who have played Motorsport 8 know that this isn't a huge deal. You can still control the wet tires in the rain because the wet weather physics are a little bit scuffed right now in the game. But as you'll see, this really turns out to be an excellent race. Here I am in my Acura NSX, probably my favorite GT3 car in the game currently. And as you can see now, I'm like, oh no, there's rain. But have no fear, if I can just manage my tires and hopefully not get into any accidents like that guy hitting me off the start, if I can just not get into any accidents, I should be okay. This first lap, as you can see, I'm just trying to stay safe, and I'm not using traction control, I'm using ABS, but no traction control, and I'm able to control the car just fine here on a wet circuit. And yeah, so far I am just being very careful with my driving. I've already gone up 2 places at the start. I'm currently P8, but now it's just getting into a rhythm and figuring out the strategy, as well as knowing that soft tires should be okay in the rain. I also know that the wet tires probably will not last long at this race, maybe for 3 or 4 laps, because again, wet tires in this game for some reason just don't last nearly as long as I'd expect them to. But as you can see here, making a little bit of a mistake out of that first little kick, hurrying down in the hurry downs, and coming into the carousel, losing a bit of time to the driver up in front of me. But I have moved into P7 after one guy went wide at turn 5. So out of carousel, being very careful, trying not to be in lower gears here, trying to keep my gearing high, short shifting a little bit, taking the kink very safe. And I am pulling away from the driver in 8th place now, so this is a good sign that my soft tires should probably last longer than I would expect it to. So that's a really good sign for me. At this point, I'm just looking at the leader, I'm looking at the cars ahead of me and trying to maintain that distance the best that I can. So as we turn the final turn here up the hill, waving to my favorite tree there on the right that I love to sit under when I go myself to Road America, we come finishing our first lap, and we can see that one guy, Dan, has pit already. Hurrying over to lap 2 now. We are still in 6th place. Remember, Dan has pit already, so he pit on lap 1. And at this point, I'm just trying to look at the drivers ahead of me. I see 7.4, 7.3 is the gap to Shadow Cheese in the lead, and I am losing to the guy in P5, but if I can just try and stick with the best I can, I am losing the driver behind. Moving over to lap 3 with almost a big mistake, and as you can see, I have been gaining on the leader. Not gaining on P5, but I have been gaining on the leader. Leader has fallen back now 5.9 seconds away from me. And it shows that he's probably not managing those wet tires, that he started the race on. So now I'm thinking, okay, he lasted 3 laps. We see Panda going off into the distance there. He lasted 3 laps. They're all coming in for a pit. I am going to follow their strategy. I think I can match their strategy. Maybe could have gone one more lap, but I know that one guy pit the first lap. I would like to stick with this group the best I can. Put on those those wet tires. Put in a little bit of fuel just to get me to the end of the race. And I'm actually able to jump a guy in the pits with a slightly faster pit stop. So not only did I get a guy on the last turn there, but I also got a guy in the pits with a little bit faster pit stop. So right now I'd be sitting about P5, things considered after, as things are considered with the race start. We've got EROG in the lead. And he has not pit yet, and he is 22 seconds ahead, but I'm not too worried about that because I know I have the fresher tires. But we do have 4 laps left in this race. So now the race gets really interesting. We need to start managing our tires, and maybe I don't realize that right away because I am going in hard trying to catch RJ here ahead of me. And I think since he's already made a pit stop, I think I have the pace to catch him because his tires are a little older. But this is really showing the importance of strategy and management in Motorsport 8. These tires, when they drop off hard. And especially in these wet conditions, that just makes things a lot more difficult. So, moving up closer, we can see EROG up ahead in the lead has already dropped 10 seconds. So he definitely needs to get some new tires. He went maybe a little longer than he should have, and I send it up the inside of the kink. Never should make a move there, but I made it on RJ, and I trusted him maybe a little bit too much, but we made the move, and now we have to go defensive in Canada corner, and we are able to keep the position. So just moved up one position, maybe not on track because RJ had already made a pit stop, but it looks like he actually maybe went wide into Canada or had an issue because now Tapazzo is right behind me. Remember, he's the guy I jumped into the when going into the pits, and I am pulling away from him, and I'm still gaining on the leader, who has still yet to make a pit stop. So I'm not too worried about EROG in the lead right now. I'm just trying to race my own race and try to stick close to Citizen here ahead of me and the driver ahead of him as well. Moving on a little bit later into this lap, we see a new leader is made, and there is that EROG guy after making a bit of an error after going under the Corvette bridge there. So moving ahead of him, not too worried. We've got Loco there who's already made a pit stop. And Loco, he wasn't really in the picture before, so I think his tires are a little older. It's all about watching what other drivers are doing in these conditions. With these strategies, these medium length races, this was a medium length race. You got to watch out for other drivers and their strategy because that can really make the difference when it gets close to the end of these races. And Loco, he is 4 seconds ahead of me now, gaining a little bit on him. And I'm also gaining on City Zen and this little gaggle of cars here. They're banging doors, having a great time. And Cowboy Henning really gets the short end of the stick there, and I just decide to try and send it up the inside on the last corner and go a little bit wide, but track limits say I can be there, so I think I'm okay. Now Cowboy is going a little bit defensive here. I know I probably don't need to be too aggressive because he's going to have to come over eventually, and now I go for the attack on the brakes just a little bit later, get that car rotated. Usually I'd go down into third gear, but given the conditions, keeping it in fourth, just trying to stick it. Now I'm looking at a podium. Loco is actually gaining time on me now. just trying to think of what's manageable for me. I'm thinking, 2 laps left, and now my tires are starting to go. Maybe the best decision is just to shoot for a podium, because I know these guys ahead of me, City Zen and the guy ahead of him, they're on a different, they're on the same strategy as me. I mean, they came in on the same lap as me. They were with me from the beginning, so their tires are hurting just as much as mine. So my thought is, we're coming up to the last lap here. Okay, I can either follow them in or I can risk it. My tires are dying. The tire fall off is crazy, crazy fast in Motorsport 8. I've only had these soft tires for 3 laps, but they're already dying on me. We only have 1 lap left. So this is where decision time comes into play. Do I go in for a pit stop or do I stay out and risk it? Now, at this point, I'm pretty confident in my abilities to drive in the wet, and the game says I only have 1 lap left, so I'm thinking, okay, it's not worth it to take a pit stop just for the last lap. Loco, who was in the lead, decides to take a pit stop. All right, 1 more lap left. I'm on the podium, and the 2 cars ahead of me are losing time to me, and their tires are just as dead as mine. And as you can see, I'm just really struggling with understeer, lack of grip with these wet tires. There's just nothing left in them, but look at these drivers ahead of me. There's nothing left in their tires as well. As we come down the Sargento Cheese Bridge, I am 1 second from City Zen, and now Shadow Cheese, who's in the lead, once again, he's 2 seconds away from me, and I'm gaining on him as well. As we go into turn 5, heavy braking zone, heaviest braking zone in the track. Ooh, City Zen goes wide there, and also Shadow Cheese loses the car as well. So in the span of 1 turn there, on the last lap of this crazy race, I've moved into the lead. And now, looking at the 3 drivers behind me, I see everyone on the same strategy. I just need to pull away at this point. That is the only thing I need to worry about. Keeping clean, keeping safe. I just need to finish the lap. My nerves were running high here as we go through carousel, really struggling with that understeer and going incredibly slow, like 10 miles per hour slower than I usually take it. And this is where I get a little bit worried because, as you saw, Dan, who pitted on the first lap with a 2-stop strategy, he is coming through 6 seconds behind, and I know he's on fresher tires than me. Probably only 1 lap fresher, but honestly, with how bad these tires are, that's just enough. But now I have 3 corners left. Canada corner. Take that one just fine. A little bit of wheel spin, still losing time, but I think I have enough space. I think I've given myself enough space to come away as we turn the final corner here. What maybe started as a botched strategy has now turned into what had been my first ever win in the GT cars. These conditions seem to always suit me. Other drivers don't really know how to drive in the wet, but for me, it seemed to work out just fine and really shows the importance there of strategy and tire management and keeping your calm in those pressure situations. Now, I think that the wet tires in this game do need to last longer. I mean, sure, that race could have still been a 2-stop strategy, but hopefully those 2 stops should have been on wet tires. But anyway, I came away with a win. Everything was successful. What started as a botched strategy ended up being an absolute 500 IQ move, probably the best strategy I could have had. And honestly, keeping my cool under that pressure of not having grip in my tires wearing down too fast, that is what made this race successful for me. All those other drivers, you could see tons of other drivers had faster laps than me. Dan was 4 seconds faster than me per lap, but I just kept my cool. I kept to my strategy, kept my head down, and I stayed in the race. Well, anyway, folks, I hope you enjoyed that race. I should have hopefully some more commentary and race footage coming out shortly. But that's all I've got for you today. My name is Shim. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you guys have an absolutely wonderful day. Peace.